Hey Mama, welcome back to another episode of the One Income Family Podcast. Okay, so before I get into today's episode, I want to give you a little heads up because I don't know if you hear the way I sound, but I can hear it. So I am extremely stuffed up and I hope that it doesn't affect the way that I sound for you. But we ended up this past week finding mold in our bathroom, which heads up, I will be doing an episode on how that affected the budget later on. I don't exactly know when because, we have to finish the renovation and all of that stuff that had to happen. So that will be coming out soon and everything that I've learned from it and how it's, affected the budget. But it has also affected the way that I sound and the way that I feel and my energy and all that. So I am going to probably do a shorter episode today just for your sake and hopefully so that I don't start coughing on you. So with that being said, let's dive into, today's episode, or at least the beginning of the episode, right? So have you ever looked at your budget and thought to yourself that something just feels off? But you go ahead and you fill out your budget the exact same way that you've been doing it before. And then by the end of the pay cycle, you find that yet again, another budget has bit the dust because you couldn't follow it. This, my friend, one is normal. And it's the feeling that something is off is what we are going to be going over today. If something doesn't feel right, then things have to change. So in today's episode, you are going to learn what it means to have a budget out of alignment with your life so that you can create a budget that you are excited to follow because it is supporting the life that you want to live. So go grab yourself a nice warm drink and a pair of headphones and let's get to it. Do you find it hard to save or get out of debt? Are you constantly searching for ways to save money and live on a budget? Do you have big dreams only to be stopped by not sticking to your budget? Are you ready for financial freedom? Then you, Mama, are in the right place. Welcome to the One Income Family Podcast, where you will learn what it looks like to budget on one income, how to partner with God in your finances, how to budget in a way that's easy to stick to, and how to cut costs and save money, all so that you can start building wealth. It is my mission to equip you with these tools so that you can live in abundance regardless of the amount in your account. Hey, I'm Molly, a budget coach for stay-at-home moms, and I know what it's like to struggle on one income. I've lived paycheck to paycheck, relied on being frugal, and failed many budgets until I learned how to budget without tracking. This has allowed my family to pay off debt and build wealth all on one income. So, if you are ready for financial freedom, then go grab that stroller, plug in those headphones, and let's get to it. I know what it's like to not be able to stick to your budget. The frustration, the disappointment, the feelings that overcome you. The shame that encompasses you because you think you should be able to do this. And when life tells you that you can't stick to your budget yet again, it is crushing. You want to give up on the budget, to throw it away. You want to go back to when you had more money and budgeting was easy, when you didn't have to wonder if you had the money or not. Mama, that dream can come true. You can live on one income with a budget that you can stick to and a life that you adore. Fear, frustration, disappointment do not have to be part of the equation. It is time for you to manage your money confidently. I want you to say yes to you, to say that today is the day that you are going to release the fear and the shame of not being able to stick to your budget. I want you to go right now to calendly.com/Molly Bunnell and book a budget coaching session because we are going to walk through this together. I'm going to hold your hand and together we are going to overcome the fear and start budgeting confidently so that you can live the life that you love. Again, all you have to do is go to calendly.com/Molly Bunnell. That's calendly.com/Molly with a Y, B as in boy, ENELL to book your call. Alrighty, so I want to start by saying that a budget is more than just making sure that your bills are paid. And I know that this is the basis of what everyone teaches when it comes to a budget, but there is so much more to it, so much more passion and feeling, because it's more than just numbers. It's more than covering your food and transportation costs. It's about using your money to create a life that you enjoy. What kind of food do you wish to buy and why? What kind of vehicle do you want to buy and why? These are all questions that tell a person who you are, and not necessarily the life you live, but the life that you enjoy, because we don't want our life to be defined by how expensive something is. We just want to be able to enjoy the life and to be able to use or have a vehicle or have the food that we know is going to, one, light us up, and two, not break the bank, right? So to have a budget you enjoy, you've got to tailor it around the life that you live. It's so much more, like I said, the numbers on a spreadsheet that you want to keep at either a zero-based budget or a percentage budget. It supports the life that you want, the life that you want to live. It supports this life that you dream of having. Again, so it doesn't break the budget, but it's still, if somebody were to look at your budget, it's going to tell that person who you are and the kind of life you like. Do you want a healthy life? Do you buy organic? Do you want to be that homesteading person that goes out and makes homemade bread? Your budget is going to show that, right? It supports the life that you wish to have. And what your budget doesn't support, I also want to touch on, God supports the rest, right? This kind of encompasses like a form of humility, which is really good to have. It keeps us on the straight and narrow instead of trying to go zigzaggy and, follow the world's way. I love the fact that we have to allow God to support us in the areas that we ourselves can't support us, because that's the way life is, right? We are not going to be able to cover every single thing that we want to do or need to do, and God will be able to provide that. So it's really humbling just to think that. And it also helps keep our brain out of the, oh, how expensive can I go? Or I want to just use all my money instead of maybe my own talents, or going out and asking a friend for help, right? We don't tailor our lives around, God's support. We are so focused on being able to I am a broken record right now because I can't think of the word that I want, but we are so reliant on ourselves. We are so in our own worlds and want to be able to cover everything with the money that we have, that we don't sit back and we don't ask God for help in these areas. God doesn't think that it's silly if you want a specific type of vehicle. If you're like, hey, I need a vehicle, this one's breaking down, I would really like this kind of vehicle, or I have these needs that need to be met. Can you please help us find something in our price range that's going to meet all these needs, or that is this specific vehicle? You can ask him that. That is not silly. It's not like, he's not going to be like, no, you can't do that and all this kind of stuff. It's like we need to ask like we're children. Your children come up to you and ask for things for Christmas or for their birthday. Or when we were going on a trip to New Jersey, my daughter saw this travel like hard suitcase that's a Minnie Mouse one, and she just called up her grandpa and just flat out asked him with no thought, as if it was a weird thing to say, or because there's no things coming up, there's no birthday, there's no Christmas, there's no holidays to support getting a gift, and she's just like, I want this and I want this and I want this, and he, of course, being her grandpa, got it for her, right? But it was still weird to hear her say that. But that's the way we need to be with God. We need to rely on him. We need to lean back and just flat out ask him. Sometimes the answer might be no, because there's something better down the road. But just being able to ask him for these silly things that we deem as silly isn't silly to him, because it means that we are leaning on him, we are asking him for support, and we are keeping him in a close-knit relationship that we feel comfortable asking those silly things that are silly to us, right? So we need to be more into thinking about that with our budget, to know that even though our budget is only going to support so much, because our budget is limited, just like our time is limited. There's not ever going to be this unlimited amount. Even if you're a millionaire, you still have limits to how much you can spend. You can't go overboard and, go broke. So you have a limit on how much you can spend. And being able to rely on God for the rest is just, again, it's so humbling, and it's so nice to know. It's reassuring that we are not alone. We don't give enough credit to God's support. I mean, we are so focused, again, on ourselves and the things that we want to do, that we don't lean back on him and say, hey, God, this is what I'd really like. We do our prayers when it comes to something that is like health related or things like that. But when it comes to financial needs, we tend to just try to stick to our own budget and to our own ways. So definitely, I want you to align your budget with your life with the support of God. So that is what I really hope that you get out of all these episodes that I have been putting out in this podcast, is that the alignment of your budget isn't just simply with your life, but it's also with God, so that you can get that support. You can get the most support that you can out of what you are able to do, but then out of the vast reaches of what God can do, because it's so much more than our limited amount of funds. And so that is just an extremely important aspect that I really wanted to touch on today, to make sure that when we go to try to align our budget with our lives, we are also accounting in the fact that God is there, and that relying on him and reaching to him and asking him these childlike questions, that we are going to be able to do so much more, not only with our money, but with our life, to create a life that we enjoy and is supported both with our finances and by God. Okay, so today, like I said, we are talking about aligning our budget with our lives. And I want to touch on what happens when your budget is out of alignment. What happens? Well, most of the time you feel restricted. You feel like you are doing things that you don't really want to do. You sit back and you're like, okay, well, here I go, paying the bills again, which, is a necessity. But there may be some bills in there that you don't need to pay, right? And so it takes away from some of the fun things that you want to do, if that, again, is a priority, because you need to know what's important to you and how to align that with what it is that your life goal is. Maybe sometimes you just need to sit down and really figure out, and I know this is like some deep soul searching, and sometimes that can be hard, but that's what our budget supports. And if we set up a vague budget that doesn't support the life that we truly want to live, and it's just maybe copying somebody else's budget, or it's doing the basics of what we used to do and we haven't adapted it to what our lives have morphed into, then we're going to never be able to stick to our budget, for one, because it's out of alignment. Your budget is not keeping you happy, and happy is a very touchy word in this, because, happy is a short form of joy. I want you to have joy, which means that life isn't always going to be perfect, but it's going to be able to be joyful, right? You're going to be able to smile even through the hard times. And so that's what I want for your budget. So I want you to not feel restricted. And you need to define what that restriction is. You need to dive deep and figure out, is it because I'm not able to go out to eat all the time? And why? Is that a restriction that I'm okay with? And maybe I just need to not quit cold turkey, but slowly cut back, right? What is it that's making you feel restricted, and how can you curb that feeling or put the money back towards that thing that you really enjoyed doing? Like if it was a hobby, if you enjoy, let's say, crocheting. I haven't crocheted in a hot minute, but let's say that something that you enjoy doing is crocheting, and you're like, well, we're getting tight on funds right now, so I cut out my money for being able to support that. So I don't have any more yarn. I'm out of yarn. So now I have no creative outlet, right? No, we need you to still have that creative outlet, because that is a stress reducer. That is something that makes you feel like you. It makes you feel joyful, and it doesn't make you feel stuck and restricted. So you really need to make sure when you go and cut things out that it's not going to make you feel restricted. And if it does, maybe it's something that you need to cut it back more slowly. If it is something that you don't want to do anymore, then cut it back more slowly so that you're not just quitting cold turkey. Because I say this on repeat, quitting cold turkey is going to make you never be able to stick to your budget. It is going to make you go down a rabbit hole where you're like, no, I really want to do that. And you see it and you buy it anyway because it's a habit. And that habit is what needs to be broken, not the funds being able to afford it. Now, sometimes you can get away with not having the money to afford it, right? But it's going to be hard. It's going to feel restricting. It's going to not give you this joyful life that I want you and your family to have. So you need to do it more slowly. Figure out why you are feeling restricted. Another thing that if your life isn't aligned with your budget and with God, you feel like you're living someone else's life. Because like I've touched on, maybe you are doing what somebody else is doing with their budget and you just copy and pasted theirs. Their life is not your life. This is why I touch on the fact that you need to know what your priorities are. You need to know what you enjoy and how you want to set things up. That's why at the beginning I asked, what kind of food do you want and why? What kind of vehicle do you want and why? We can ask that question around everything that you have, with every bill that you have. What kind of cell phone do you have and why? Is it meeting all your needs? Is it more than you need? Can you cut back? Your house, is it a house that you enjoy, or is it something that you just got into? And if it's maybe at the max budget, is there something else that maybe you could get into that's a better price and something you enjoy more, right? This is all something that you have to take to God if it's out of your budget reach, right? Maybe there's something that you would enjoy, like something, let's say a house. So for instance, my husband and I would like to move a little bit closer to town because we are a good, 45 minutes from town. I'm a people person and I just don't feel like driving 45 minutes to go spend an hour with a friend, to spend another 45 minutes to come back into town. So only an hour with a friend, but an hour and 30-minute drive, right? Not something I can wrap my brain around very well. I do need to get over it, but it's hard for me to not just go to town, get everything done and come home, like spend the whole day in town and then come home. So we're looking at maybe moving a little bit closer to town, but the land that we want is not going to be in the price that we want. So we would like to have about 5 acres to be able to, do everything that we want to do. And that is not going to be able to be in our budget. My dad sold us the house that we live in at a lower price because he wanted to keep it in the family. But now he's like, okay, you can sell it if you're not happy there. And so we would have, a good amount to put down. But even then, we still probably wouldn't have the money to be able to afford a $300,000-$400,000 house, which is what it would cost for the amount that for the size of land that we want. That's what I'm trying to spit out. Because the county that we want to live in, which is closer to town, costs more, right? Which is natural. That's the way things go. No matter where you go, there's going to be different living costs, different, prices for houses. And you may think, oh, that's not very much. I can do that. And other people are like, oh my gosh, that's a lot, right? So it's different where you're at, but us financially, where we're at, the amount of money that we make isn't going to be able to afford that. So that is something that in order to move, if it's something that God wants us to do, we have to lean on Him. We have to rely on Him. We have to ask Him so that we don't feel like we're living someone else's life. I mean, truthfully, here at this house, I love this house. I love that I grew up in it. But I always told my husband that I would never buy my dad's house or his dad's house just because I want my own place. I don't want to feel like it's somebody else's house. Even though I'm making all these renovations and changes to this house, it still feels like it's my dad's house. It still feels like I am a child and I have to ask for everything that I want to do, right? Which is natural because I grew up here and that's all that I know. Like, that's the way it was for the past 20, I don't want to do the full math, 20 some years. And we've only owned it for about 3 years now. So that is obviously going to overcome my 3 years of experience of owning it myself compared to living in it as a child, right? So that is something that we feel as well, why we would like to move. And it's just, again, it's something that we have to rely on God. We have to lean on Him. We have to say, okay, if this is something you would like us to do, please reveal it. Let us see where we should move. Like, what do you want us to do? And it's still a dream that we have right now. Nothing is coming open that's in our price range, but that doesn't mean that it won't happen in the future. It just means that we have to be patient and wait. And in the meantime, make the most of what we have, right? So I don't want to feel like I'm living someone else's life. I don't want you to feel like you're living someone else's life or past life. And I don't want you to feel like you can never stick to your budget, because that is another thing that comes with having a budget out of alignment with your life and without the support of God, is that you feel like you can't ever stick to your budget. Because it's more than just numbers. It's more than just overspending. It's more than everything that goes into the package. It's about how you have set up your budget for your life and how you enjoy it, the things that you want to do and all of that. So I really hope that after today, you go and you sit down and you do the steps that I'm about to tell you to do so that you can create a budget that is revolving around your life and the joy that you want to have and the support that you want to have with God, right? So creating a budget in alignment with your life and the life that you want means you're going to have to audit your life. It's going to be hard. It's going to be some soul searching. It's going to be some really diving deep into the things that you and your husband and your family want, figuring out what is important. I know I talk about priorities all the time, and this is where you're going to find those priorities. You're going to find your family values and what it is that you think your family, really revolves around. Like, do you want to be the person that spends a lot of money, or do you want to be the frugal family? Like, what are your values and what are your priorities? You're going to find that when you sit down and you audit your life. And then when you audit your budget, you're going to find out if your budget is in alignment with your life or not. And 9 times out of 10, it's probably out of alignment if you can't stick to your budget. Because like I said, it's more than just overspending. There is a reason that you are overspending. Now, if you're overspending because of in the moment purchases, that is totally different than most of the reason why you're unable to stick to your budget, which has to do with like the bills that you have. It has to do with sometimes the size of your house. Again, like what I said, if I were to go get the house that I wanted, we would not be able to financially afford it. So sometimes it could be that, that's what you really have to audit is the life you're living. You have to figure out the life that you want to live and then see what's going on with your budget. Does it align? Does it go together? If not, then you need to edit out the things that you don't enjoy and aren't serving you. This could be maybe you've got some subscriptions that you don't use. You see those commercials all the time for that app called Rocket Money. And they're like, you think you know how many subscriptions you have? And they're like, yeah, I've got 3 or 4. And they actually say that they have 13, right? Now, I'm sure that you are not to that extent if you are on one budget because you probably won't be able to afford that many. But I would hope that you would know how many subscriptions you have so that you are able to identify whether they are serving you. You can decide if it's something that you're actually using on the constant, or if maybe there's another way you could do it. For instance, I have a monthly, well, it's not monthly, it's a yearly subscription to a Pilates course that I have, and it's quite a pricey amount, right? And I've contemplated, because I really enjoy it, but I've contemplated buying like some CDs or getting an app. CDs, I should say DVDs. You can't watch Pilates on a CD. My goodness. Anyways, I've thought about getting like a video so I can just watch the same ones on repeat all the time, and then just change them up a little bit down the road, because that's going to be like $20 compared to the $250 I think that I pay a month. And so that is something that you could think of as well. Like, is there a way that you can still keep what you're doing but replace it with something that is a little bit cheaper, right? But if it's something that you enjoy, don't cut it out just because you think it's an extracurricular that you don't or that you shouldn't have. That is not what I'm saying. I want you to have your extracurriculars. I want you to have your hobbies. I want you to have the things that light you up and you enjoy, and not just for you, but your entire family, right? And so that is what this is all about. It's about deciding what is important to you. What is the thing that you want to do all the time, and to set your budget up to support that, because that's how you're going to be able to stop feeling restricted. That's how you're going to be able to stick to your budget, and you're going to stop feeling like you're living somebody else's life or a past life. That is what you're going to be able to get out of this. So after you're done editing out the things that you have done, all you got to do is start making the changes like from paper into your actual life, right? You can see it on paper and you can look at it, and sometimes it can feel daunting. So I don't want you to do this all at one time. I do want you to sit down and do your audit all at one time. But the changes that you make, I want you to do one at a time, because they are habits that you have been doing for who knows how long. Maybe it's been like your entire life, or maybe it's just been a few months here and there. These are habits that you have curated, and in order to shift them or break them, you have to do it slowly in order for it to stick. Because like I said, when you quit cold turkey, you're able to do it for maybe a week or two, and then you tend to fall off the wagon. And I don't want that for you. So you got to slowly start breaking those habits, slowly start tweaking them and changing them or replacing them with something else that you enjoy, so that it's easier to make that change. And so that is what I want for you. I want you to go out there, take a piece of paper, sit down, maybe after you've put the kids down for a nap, if they all nap right now, or maybe after you've put them down for bedtime so that you and your husband can do this together, and just really figure out what is important to you and your family. What are you currently doing? And then look at your budget too. This might take a couple days if you really want to dive that deep into it, right? But it is going to be so helpful. You are going to get so much further with your budget, and you're going to actually be able to stick to your budget, because again, it is curating a life that you enjoy, and you're going to slowly start changing those habits up. You're going to slowly start going from spending all of your money to starting to save up, because maybe that's a priority. But again, you got to slowly start doing it so that you don't overwhelm yourself. I want you to know that you're not alone in this, and that you have help. If you want help in this, you can come over and grab yourself a budget coaching session, because this is exactly something that I can help walk you through. We can dive into what it is that you want for your life and how to align that with your budget, if that's something that you want, or if it's something that you want to take out, right? So all you have to do to grab yourself a budget coaching session is go to calendly.com/Molly Bunnell. That's calendly.com/Molly with a Y, B as in boy, ENELL, and book yourself a budget coaching session, because we can walk through this together. I can hold your hand if that's something you like, or I can give you the steps, whichever one you prefer. And together we can overcome your fear so that you can start budgeting confidently and stick to your budget so that you can live the life that you love. And with that, I will see you right back here next week on another episode of the One Income Family Podcast. Before you go, I hope this episode has ignited a fire inside of you, and I pray that it creates long-lasting impact. Did you know that you too can impact other one-income families? All you have to do is leave a written review, and you help get the podcast in the hands of other mamas in need. You can also text this episode to that friend who is also knee-deep in the same kind of chaos as you and inspire them to make a change. Also, your review lets me know that you're enjoying the show, and that lights me up. I get so excited to hear from you. Another great way that we can connect, though, is through the One Income Family community over on Facebook. So after you're done leaving that 5-star review, head on over to the community where you will find other mamas working their way out of the chaos. You can ask your questions and connect with others who truly understand what you are going through. I cannot wait to connect with you in the community. Until then, I will see you right here next week on another episode of the One Income Family Podcast.